All right, Joe. I feel like you've been giving me fair warning in snide comments here and there, but as frustrating as Oliver was, he certainly made the show more enjoyable. I feel like this week's episode, the Nana, was just all over the goddamn place.
Yeah. Don't you just love, like, introducing, like, a major family character on, like, the back nine of a season? Like,
yeah. The basic premise of this episode is that Sandy Cohen's mom is coming to visit. He's had kind of a strained relationship with her for X amount of years, and everyone's expecting her to be this grump, and she's like the ideal grandmother, just like so loving, so understanding. And that's not good enough for Sandy. Sandy knows that something's up, so he pushes some buttons and just is immediately revealed, I have lung cancer, I'm dying in 6 months. And it's like, well, that's a fucking tone change out of nowhere. And then it's like this battle of like, go get help, don't die. Like, I want you here. But all while this is happening, Ryan is on the search to find Marissa, who has ran off to Chino? Like, question mark? Like, it is... This episode, there's like not a single thing that happens in this episode that actually connects in my mind. It's like, this is all filler and stupid is what it comes down
wow.
to.
Filler and stupid. Wow.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel? Is this your favorite episode of the season?
It's not my favorite episode of the season. I love everything with the Nana, but then again, I just love Jewish people. So the fact that they're like that, like it. I mean, it's so real that fact of like Sandy going through the house, like getting rid of all the bread. We need to get rid of everything. I also love that there's like another Jewish couple in the OC that, you know, we're just gonna go to the Ackermans for Passover, bring over wine.
Yeah, this is the first we hear about their existence.
Yeah, exactly. It's not my favorite episode. It's fun because of all the antics. I love that, like, we are truly seeing Marissa have like no impulse control or the power to make any good decision. Like, she's literally like, this rewatch through your eyes, Matt, is making me realize just how much of a brat Marissa is.
Marissa's the absolute worst. And I mean, we'll get into it next week's episode, but next week's episode, she has a reaction to something that pissed me off so fucking bad with like her selfishness. I will give credit where credit's due. This is another one of these episodes where it literally picks up exactly at the moment that we left off, which is kind of rare, especially in the OC. But it also has something that we've talked about pretty recently, which is that the very jangle pop piano theme kicks in on like a very dour note where it's like, you know, it's Julie and Ryan having a standoff, and she's like, when I find her, I'm gonna lock her up, and he's like, not if I find her first. Like, it's just ridiculous.
California.
California. Now, I will say we jump from that. The theme song leads into Sandy prepping for his mom to show up, and I was smiling ear to ear throughout most of that. Like, him just trying to be like, all right, we got to do this. We got to do this. We're going to have to cook. This is going to be like a real thing. Like he's so manic in a way that you don't usually get to see Sandy Cohen be manic while still kind of being cool and collected. But yeah, I mean, as all this craziness is happening, Summer is like trying to prove that she can be a great girlfriend to Seth by reading the four questions before dinner?
I think it's the 4 questions.
Yeah, the 4 questions before dinner. But Ryan has gone rogue because he is going to find Marissa and bring her home before Julie Cooper has her like arrested and locked up in a sane asylum or whatever. And this is where I get to my note that just says, "Oh, cool, we're still supposed to care about Teresa and Eddie," because she hides out at Teresa's house, which leads Ryan to show up just in time for the big engagement party that they're having that day.
That is the most frustrating thing about that whole storyline. It's like, why would you still want to get engaged if you you abandoned him and then went you abandoned him and went to your ex-boyfriend, and presumably they're all 19, 18, right? Like your ex-high school
Y'all
boyfriend.
Fucked.
Yeah.
Like she definitely cheated on you with her ex if you were truly engaged. And then she's like, "No, I do want to marry Eddie. I was just scared." And Joe, I need you to clarify something, because maybe if this is something
Sure.
that will be developed more in the season, then, say, give it time. But are we supposed to, at this point, just, is that how they're writing out this whole Teresa Eddie subplot? Is just she ran to LA because she was scared, but really they're actually a great couple, and we should be happy that they're getting married? Is this where we're being left off with these two?
Oh, Matt, anyone who's listening to this show right now who knows what's coming just in the next few episodes is doing that shake head "Oh, sweet baby angel." There's a lot more Teresa and Eddie.
There's more Eddie Teresa. Great. Yeah. So excited. My favorite subplot that they've had on this show.
Exactly. But episodically, if you take this whole 4-season first season, right?
This is over the Eddie Teresa plot line has all happened within a matter of a week and a half.
Yeah. Yes.
Story in the world of the OC.
Which I guess makes sense then, that she would change her mind and go back and he would forgive her. I don't know, at this point I want to see more Eddie, just because he's hot. But I gotta say that it episodically it works, because the first season, as I've said before, is about not being trying to find your place in your new home, and these constant reminders of how he doesn't fit in, of how he and now we're reaching a point where it's those reminders were very early on and it was fish out of water, but now we're getting the push and pull. The tension is coming from these forces that are bringing him and calling him back to Chino now. We've been in Chino how many times?
A lot. Yeah. But you know what? That is true, because the best line in this entire episode comes towards the very end, where they come back to the Cohen's house and Sandy says, "So how was everything at home?" And he says, "You tell me, I was just in Chino."
Yeah.
And it's it's that moment where you're really realize oh, Ryan is in. He is part of Newport Beach in his heart and mind now. This is where his home is. I don't even remember what triggered this, but as we're talking about it, I'll read this note that I wrote that just said, "I'm so fucking over Marissa. Is this what I have to deal with for the rest of this series?" And I guess the answer is, yeah, pretty much. It's just every problem in the world is the absolute worst, most terrible thing that's ever happened to another human being in the history of high school, and I'm gonna have to chug a bunch of pain pills and
flee to Chino.
I'm gonna run to Chino. I'm gonna pound drinks. I'm gonna get held up at gunpoint by a psychopath that I'm the only person who couldn't recognize was a psychopath.
Yeah,
everything is so dramatic, and this isn't my pop culture thing, but I'm in the middle of watching Parenthood for the first time, and in the Parenthood, where I'm at in the Parenthood, and I'll speak in vagalities, but a character is diagnosed with breast cancer. And what is beautiful and different than watching the OC is that this character gets diagnosed with breast cancer, and while it's shocking and a terrible thing, I'm but this ain't the kind of show where this person's gonna die. I'm already comforted by knowing this show is about people coming together and like love and positivity and like there's going to be arguments and fights, but you know that like at the 40-minute mark, things are going to tie up nicely and nothing truly bad will ever happen to the Braverman family. And it is the total opposite. Every episode of the OC, I'm like, is this person going to get shot? Is this person going to get in a car accident? Like, is someone going to unexplainably die off camera and that's how they're going to write them off? Like, I don't fucking know. It's so stressful, Joe. This show is so stressful.
Yep.
I love that this was your comfort show.
Again, it was my comfort show because the problems of rich white people, the white people problems, like, oh, there's all this drama going on that like my drama, my insignificance is not insignificance, but like, you know, the things that I'm experiencing pale in comparison to, you know, Marissa acting out. And also like it's also now I'm thinking about it and I'm like, wow, I could have like really taken that as like as confirmation that I should be more dramatic about things, but I took it the healthy way, which is like, no, I'm gonna react like with measured and proportionate with measured proportionality. How about that?
Yeah. What's the lyric in Panic at the Disco? With poise and rationality.
Yes, exactly. with a sense of poise and rationality.
The only other thing that I wrote down, and it's such a minor subplot in this episode, was that like I think that the Jimmy Haley relationship is really cute, but they have gone so hot cold back and forth with this relationship so many times in such a short period of time that I'm like already kind of over it at the same time. Like Jimmy Cooper and Haley have almost been a couple 4 times 23 episodes into this show.
I know. Are they it's just like Jimmy, it angers me every time Jimmy is like, no, I'm friends with your sister. And I'm like, that doesn't fucking mean like
that doesn't mean anything. If you want to be like, no, I'm in love with your sister and I used to date her. Yeah, that's an actual problem.
Yeah.
Like you being friends with her sister, like, so that makes things like I would love to date one of my siblings' friends who already knows the insanity of the family they're about to sign up to be a part of. You know what I mean? Like there's no, okay, like, you know, if I'm seeing somebody, I always feel like I have to be like, all right, so here's the deal. Like this is what the personality traits are of all of my family members. Like the best way to survive is to like not engage in these types of behaviors when they bring up the topic. Like you're going to just give yourself, but if you're dating someone who's been like a friend of the family in some way, shape or form forever, it's like, you don't have to do that. They already know. Like, he knows what to, if him and Haley get married, he knows exactly what to expect out of his sister-in-law. He knows what he's signing up for in his father-in-law, and he knows that his ex-wife is going to be his mother-in-law.
Yeah. Well, not yet.
Not yet.
Not in this episode.
Look,
yeah.
Not in this episode, but I mean, it's coming, baby.
Yeah.
It's coming like a speeding train.
Put down that smartphone and listen to me. I'm Matthew Milligan, professional musician and lifelong Weird Al fan. Each week, I'm joined by professional podcaster and close personal friend Matt Kelly to take a dive off the deep end into the vast career of pop culture icon Weird Al Yankovic on our show, Weird Algorithm. Along with some very special guests from the worlds of music and comedy, we tackle every song, every television appearance, and every bit of sketch comedy Al has produced in chronological order, covering the good old days of My Bologna and Eat It, the fun zone of tacky and white and nerdy, and everything in between. As we go, we're ranking the songs, albums, and music videos in the hopes of creating the ultimate guide to a career bigger than the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota. So the next time you're having one of those days, stuck in a traffic jam, wondering why does this always happen to me, just kick off your sneakers and stick around for a while because we've got it all on Weird Algorithm, available wherever you get your podcasts. And now you know. Was that enough references?
But yeah, I mean, those were my thoughts on it. You as the veteran OC viewers, or anything in this episode that you're like, how could we? Because you know that I'm the king of skipping over Julie Cooper plot lines. So
I mean,
but
no,
there's barely one in this one. Like,
you're right. Julie Cooper's gonna be front and center for the next few episodes after next week. So yeah.
And so it's just going to be very Julie Cooper and Eddie and Teresa heavy, is what you're telling me. I can strap in.
Yeah,
for.
just get ready. You didn't like Julie Cooper. You're gonna continue not to like her. Let's put it that way.
I'm waiting for the point where I'm like, Joe, I agree with you. She is the best character.
It won't come for a while. Like, we're gonna be doing this show for a while before that happens.
All right, well then let's talk about music for a second. So there's a couple songs that show up, and I'm going to tell these slightly out of order. First of all, when Jimmy checks in on Haley, you're hearing Gem's Just a Ride. Ryan and Marissa are talking at a barbecue, and you hear Chris Murray's Heartache. And then at the end of the episode, you hear Aqualung's Take Me Home. But also, I had to mention this, because at the engagement party, they're blasting Modest Mouse Float On, and unequivocally no. There is no chance in the world that the people at this engagement party are bumping the new Modest Mouse record. Like, you can't convince me of it. You can't do anything to make me believe it. Like, absolutely insane. All of that being said, I picked Float On by Modest Mouse as my song of the episode.
I mean, come on. Like, first of all, like, you couldn't. It's so like Float On by Modest Mouse is on this playlist that I have called Did I Just Walk Into a Hollister? Because
yep, it's right in that world.
It's in that vein. It's like, Switchfoot, Dare You to Move. It's some like all the Franz Ferdinand songs from that time.
Yeah. Take me out.
Yeah. It's a whole vibe, and I'm just looking at it and it's like, wow, you're right. There is no way that they would have been playing like I've been to those backyard boogies in Southern California in like where they like no one's playing Float On by Modest Mouse, not even at that time.
No. And like also just like as someone who's had to bring the music for backyard parties, Float On is not the song you're playing for an all ages like get together. You know what I mean? Like if I'm asked to provide music for my parents' 4th of July party, guess what? It's going to be a whole lot of like Motown music and then 60s, 70s, and 80s mainstays. You're not busting out a lot of brand new hot on the chart indie rock band tracks. Like it's just not. It's so disingenuous, but it's so hilarious because I don't know if this is a controversial statement or not. It's my favorite Modest Mouse album. I have all of their albums, but Good News for people who love Bad News, I just think is like banger after banger on that track, on that album.
Have you done it for One Hit Thunder? Have you done?
I don't even know if they are any hit Thunder, in all honesty. I mean, I guess technically gun to most people's heads, I guess that's the only one that they would be able to produce. So maybe that should be on our list. I don't even have that on our list. We'll see. I'll pitch that to Chris and see. I'll float it up the flagpole and see who salutes. And you agreed with me on Float On, correct, as the song of the episode?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those like for me it's like contextually it makes no sense, but I also don't give a fuck because it is such a good song.
I into a cop car the other day. Dude, I love playing that song on guitar too. But all right, pop culture promo. You know the spiel. I've said it 22 other times, but hey, OC was a big pop culture moment. What's something that's pop culture moment that you're enjoying or were enjoying at some point in time? Because we do back catalog record these like a mofo. So Joe, what's something that you've been vibing on in a big pop culture moment kind of way?
So I'm bringing up one that I may have already said. I actually don't quite know. So Matt, you can figure out what needs to happen if it is something that I've already said. But so in 2019, a gay romance novel called Red, White, and Royal Blue was released. And it like exploded. It was like, at the top of the New York Times bestseller. Well, I read it back in January of this year, and my God, it was just like, It's delightful. It's fun. It's like steamy, but it's not too. It's a romance novel between two gay guys, so it's steamy, but it's not smutty. And they're making it into a movie. And
Ooh.
recently, as of recording this, the director and the author of the film released a joint, dropped the teaser poster and it's going to be coming out in August. So I may reread it again. It is a very fun book. It's also like really well written, and it takes place,
which is rare in the romance novel
Yes.
genre regardless.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of world building. I actually, I have my friends Heather and Ami. They are doing a Substack / podcast project where this whole year for 2023 they're only consuming queer things. They're only consuming queer art, listening to queer voices. And when they asked me, they wanted me to be on the show, and I said, I want to talk about this book. And
Yeah.
so I recommend the Queerest Year, if you can find them. This is a twofer. Queerest Year. Find that episode that I did with them. But my God, it was just so. I'm so excited for this movie. I know it's going to be nowhere like the book, but I don't give a shit. I just there's just a few key things that I'm really excited that I'm hoping to see in the movie.
Nice. Well, I'm excited for your excitement. I'm going to talk about something that's near and dear to your heart. And I know that because I've heard you talk about it on Fright School. And I feel like we could not be more different on our take on this show. But I want to talk about season 4 of You. Which for me was my favorite season since the first season, which I did not like what they did with You when it moved to Netflix. I was like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. And season 4, I felt like finally both did something different and also leaned way more into the campy ridiculousness of how the fuck is Joe getting away with everything with not even a single cent of suspicion being thrust upon him. It gets a little Dextery, but I begrudgingly put on the first episode of You season 4, kind of being like, great, why am I in the stronghold of this fucking show? And by the end of that first episode, I was like, please tell me more. And was really sucked in. And they did something as spoiler free as I can. I thought when they did the season 4 in 2 parts. When part 1 ended, I thought, oh, I don't like that they gave us this information already. What do I have to look forward to when part 2 comes out? And boy, did I have stuff and revelations to look forward to when part 2 came out that I was not prepared for. And I just think that this was a stellar season. And if you were like me, where you were pretty much either checked out or preparing to check out, so you haven't watched season 4, I definitely think it is worth a dive in. But I believe you kind of were underwhelmed by this season, correct?
I was underwhelmed knowing that I thought it was going to be the final season overall.
I thought so too. And then I found out that there's going to be one more.
And one more, which is going to be the final season. And that kind of was what underwhelmed me, because I'm like, oh no, we're back in America. What are we going to do now? And if it had just been this season and that was it, I would have loved it, because then.
Oh, I mean, look, I'll just say I was in the same boat as you in the sense of I thought The Bridge was the end of the whole series, and I was like, perfect. And then, that was not the case, and I found out that there will be one more season, and I agree with you. I like this season a lot, but it also didn't make me feel super great about what the final season is going to be in retrospect.
Yeah. And I think I've said this before. You is one of those shows that I watch because I discovered it on my own. I watched it since the first season, but it's not generally something I openly recommend to people, just because stalking and that kind of violence is really triggering for some folks.
It's also not like, let's be clear, it's not a good show.
No,
and
Penn Badgley is very like, he's very open about the fact that like, you guys know that Joe is not like someone to admire or aspire to be with. Like, he
not at all
is an awful person, and I'm like, yes, I get that, but like it's one of those shows where it's like I'm always piqued and interested when I find people who have seen it, because those are just people that I get to talk to about it. But it's never, it wasn't like, I wasn't like going around spreading the gospel like the way I was with Midnight Mass.
No, and I wouldn't this is going to sound meaner than I mean it to be, but like, if You is your favorite show of all time, I don't really trust you as a person. Like, I watch You, and it is the same diet of like watching Love is Blind or watching like RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, it is in that this is garbage, but I enjoy the taste of garbage. It's fast food. It's fast food television compared to like watching something like Succession, which is like having a lobster from a fancy restaurant.
Yeah,
like,
You is
the McDonald's option.
You is what they call like faux-tige. Like, it's faux prestige. And I really love that. I also just like, my favorite season of You was, I think, season 2, where it's the first season after when it goes back to next it's the first season that Netflix produces all the way through.
Yes.
Also because like, I love 40, like that actor James Scully is one of my celebrity crushes, and I really loved his portrayal of it, because he brought a queerness to 40 that like, he actually talked about this. He's like, I played 40 the way I would play 40, that I didn't like make him overly straight. I just, was me. And it was the first time that like producers, creators allowed me to be me and didn't tell me to like butch it up or anything. And it works so well for the character, and especially like what ultimately happens to 40, his obsession with Joe and all of that. But yeah, I'm sorry. This is now turned into a You podcast. These are the white people problems of You.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree that season 3 was a real like, when I turned on season 4, I was like, I don't remember a fucking thing that happened in season 3, and I felt like I was playing catch up with the show as it was airing. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, he was in a library. Oh yeah, that's right, this girl. Like I just somehow I completely brain dumped the entirety of season 3 out of my head as soon as it was over.
I mean, season 3 was like our first season back, right? It was our first season back from COVID. I love the like explanation of how like it's similar to what they did in Glass Onion, where it's just like, the rich have access to things that we don't have.
Yeah. Good times. Well, Joe,
you really didn't want to talk about the Nana. Like, you were just like,
I mean, I'm not too excited to talk about the proposal next week either, to be fair. I'm waiting for this great season 1 finale that you've promised me. And then hopefully, I mean, I'm told that
like
season 2
might be disappointed.
is going to be...
I feel like I may have oversold it. Like, again, it's not the overall episode. It'll be interesting to like watch it again.
Yeah. You're like, it's just 3 straight hours of Julie Cooper, Oliver, Eddie, and Teresa hanging out with none of your favorite characters.
Exactly. It's that Spider-Man meme of they're all pointing at each other.
Yeah. But look, I am always excited to hit play on the next episode of the OC for us to sit down and talk about it. But man, the Julie Cooper and the Eddie and Teresa storylines are just a wet fart after you come off the highs that was the insanity of the Oliver subplot.
The wet fart, not the wet fart.
I'll see you next week, Joe.
Bye.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.